Now that you've wired a switch, let's add another one to make a three-way switch. Except we'll use a different switch than the one we used the first time, so we'll need to take that out. Go ahead and disassemble that switch and undo all of your wire nuts. Leave the battery and the light bulb in place, but take everything else out and let's get ready.
Alright, now we're going to do a three-way switch. That's where you have two different switches that will turn the light on and off depending on which end of the hallway you're on. You can identify a three-way switch because it has, just like before, it has two brass screws, but on one side you've got a brass and a black screw. Okay, we'll come to that in just a minute. So if you've got the light switch we used before, get rid of that one. I'm going to go ahead and leave my light in this box, but I'm going to switch the cable over to this side. And we need a new cable now. We need the one that's got the 3 conductor. This is a 14-3 or a 12-3. This is the one we use for our three-way switch. So we'll go back over to our new box, the one we haven't used yet.
Take a minute and clean up the wires, make them nice and straight. If they break off, clip off the ends and restrip them. You'll want that to do the next step.
Beautiful.
Go ahead and thread that wire up through the box. Make sure it sticks through the top of the box 6 to 8 inches so you have plenty of room to work with it.
If you got the kit with the 14 gauge instead of the 12 gauge, you're going to be so much happier when you do this one.
This is actually a lot easier if you thread the wire through the boxes first and then strip them. All those loose wires tend to get in the way and make life miserable.
Alright, this isn't perfect. In a real world, I'd want this stapled to the side with no slack in the middle. The last thing I want is a piece of wire lying up against a piece of drywall, because if somebody drives a nail through a wall and hits that wire, they'll have a short circuit and they'll have a heck of a time finding it. So we want to make sure those are tucked up in the center of the stud, completely out of the way where they can get, where they can be safe. But we're using 1.5 volts. I think we'll be okay today. Alright, so on this side we've got our power connected to our box over here. On this side we've got our light connected, so now we just need to connect a couple of light switches. So these are going to work just like the two-way switch, where we're going to connect a ground to a ground and then connect that to our light switch. These do have a grounding screw. And we're going to connect our common to our common and get those out of the way. And we'll do the same on both sides. And then I'll get to the... Alright, we'll need 2 green screws for this.
When connecting the green wire nut, make sure one wire sticks through about 1.5 inches so you have room to make your connection without being miserable.
Alright, got the ground on this side. And the ground on that side. Next up, we'll need a couple of gray wire nuts. And we're going to connect the white to the white on both sides. Get the easy stuff out of the way so we don't have any confusion later. A couple twists in there. We're just going to tuck that deep down inside that box there. And same thing over here. The white to the white.
For best practices, make sure you get 3 twists in the wire after you connect the wire nut. This keeps the wires from coming apart.
And tuck that down inside there. It's going to start getting really challenging because we've got extra wires in our boxes now, but we've got to make it all fit. Next, we'll do our grounds. Twist a loop into the wire on each one. Lego.
When you connect the ground wire to the green screw on the light switch, be sure to loop it clockwise so that it tightens the wire on as you tighten the screw.
Alright, now the thinking part happens. So let's take a minute, let's look at these light switches. I have 2 brass screws and a black screw on each switch. Okay, and if I look at my box, don't think about the colors now. On this side is where the power comes in. So from this white cable, it's giving me a black wire. This is where the power is coming from. On the yellow cable over here, I've got 2 wires going out. So these are a pair. These are called my travelers. This is my hot lead. These are my travelers. They're going to match up on this side to my travelers, and then this will be my hot lead out to the wire. This is the white cable going out. I always like to, with a Sharpie on the end of my cable, write where each one is going, so I've got a record of that. Let's start by putting some loops into each of these. All right, so the black screw, this is my power screw. That's the one that comes from the power box. This is the white cable over here. Comes from my battery over here to that. That's going to go to my black screw. Now when I learned how to do these things, they didn't color code the screws, so you had to figure out what was what, either by guessing or by looking at a wiring diagram. All right, and then my black and my red, these don't matter. They're travelers, they're like wanderers, whatever position the switch is in.
Remember to loop the wires clockwise when wrapping around the screw post so that they tighten as you tighten the screw.
So what's happening inside the switch is this black wire in one position is going to send power to this black wire here, which means the red wire gets nothing. If I flip the switch up here, then the red wire gets power and the black wire gets nothing. On this switch over here, it does exactly the opposite. Let's hook it up. So my black wire, now there's two blacks, so don't be confused by them. I have the two that are the pair are going to go to the brass screws. The pair go to the brass screws. My black wire that goes to my light fixture over here goes to the black screw. So I'll do the black screw first. Double check to make sure that that's going to my light fixture. And then my black and then my red, they can go either or. So when you see a red wire in a circuit box, red and black are generally both hot wires. We treat them the same. I told you it's going to get tight in here.
I wish I could tell you there's an easy way to do this part, but sometimes you just kind of have to muscle your way through it. When you're working with 12 gauge wire, it's even harder because it's a thicker gauge and it's harder to bend and move around in place. If you had a chance to use the 14 gauge wire, honestly, I'd use that unless you're using a circuit that calls for 12 gauge.
Okay, remember those black and those red traveler wires? So sometimes the black wire gives electricity, sometimes the red wire. And this switch connects either the black wire or the red wire back to my output wire here. So if it's the red wire from this switch sending power, then it has to be in a position for this red wire to connect down here. If I switch this way, then it's looking at the black wire, but the black wire is not sending anything unless I do that. Let's put it all together. I'll show you what I mean. Whew, that's a lot. Okay, there's our light. Let's see if we did it. Turn on the circuit breaker. Light on, light off, light on, light off. That is a three-way switch. So in this position, this is sending down, let's say, the red wire, and this one's connected to the black wire. So red and black don't make a circuit, so it doesn't turn on. If this is connecting to the red wire and I switch this to the red wire, now that light comes on. If I switch this up, now it's sending to the black. So if you've got a long hallway, you can turn them on one side or the other. Right? Get up, go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, walk back to your bedroom, turn it back off again. Now what happens sometimes is these get stuck in the middle and you're standing on one end of the hallway and this one's not doing anything. So if one of your three-way switches isn't working, chances are it's stuck in the halfway point on the end of the hall. So here we go. This is the one. If you're going to put one thing in your portfolio, this is the one to put in your portfolio. If you go to interview for an electrical job and you say, hey, I can wire a three-way switch, you'll impress at least one person at the interview table. Make sure you take a picture of all four combinations, both down, both up, one down, the other one down, with the light turned on, and then also I want the switches reversed so I can see the wiring. So that's a bunch of pictures to take to get full credit on this one. All right, three-way switch. There you go. If you've done this one, you've accomplished something big.